Hey, welcome back to the channel. No procrastination today. I usually do my recordings like between 6 and 7 p.m. and then I upload them for the next day. And I'm so excited. 3 days in a row. I'm so excited. I guess because I'm doing something I really enjoy. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first chapter of family history. And also I want to share with you, I learned how to do a live channel on my laptop. So if you're really interested, just give me thumbs up if you want to do a live so you can participate and have some input or ask some questions. I'm open for it. And we can do it like around about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we gotta get those likes up so I know that you really are listening to what I'm saying. Okay? It's all about closure. So don't be ashamed. Don't be shy. No one's gonna look you up and track you down. And a lot of times, you know, you don't even know half of the people that's on here. It's worldwide. So it's not like, you know, I'm just looking specifically for someone. You know, just if you get any value out of this, share, like, and subscribe, okay? My name is Cassandra Brand, aka MsAlexis, and we are reading from my first volume, The Purpose of My Closure, How It Began. Okay, so if you're just coming in now, go back to the first episode and the second episode because it's the third episode, okay? And this is chapter 2, and the title is Neighborhood. Now, June 6, 1966. Now, I was born August 11, 1965, so I was only 1 year old when we moved on Guilford Street on the east side of Buffalo, New York. Previously had moved from High Street, then on Mulberry, which was considered, I guess, as the project in Buffalo. I was only 1 year old then. So I know that when I became an adult, it was considered as a project, but I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just going for what I learned as a child, what I was told, and I wrote about it. And this is what I grew up to believe, okay? Now, Guilford Street was an old Polish neighborhood being bought out by middle-class black families. I was raised around Polish and Italians. My parents paid $10,000 for their home and paid $75 a month for mortgage payments. Who does that? But this is in 1966. Shoot, now people paying thousands of dollars for a mortgage or for rent, you know? So they wasn't that uneducated. So like I said, it was $75 a month. I remember the sellers of the house named Mr. and Mrs. Briggs. My dad would take me with him every first of the month to their home to pay the mortgage. They were white and they were Polish, okay? My dad moved to give us a better atmosphere and quality of life he so desired for himself before he had a family. He never gave up on his dream. I got that from my father. This was the reason he moved to Buffalo in the first place. He also took the responsibility of my mother's first 2 children, Mary and Roy, who were from her previous marriage. Not too many men are doing that today, okay? My parents were very young and fell in love at first sight. They started a new life together the best way they knew how, with what they had, including a limited amount of education. 2 years later, in 1968, they established a soul food restaurant named Get and Split, located on Genesee and Jefferson Street. Now, this is in Buffalo, New York. And this is where I think a lot of my family on my mother's side had a problem with me. Because as a child, I didn't know it was, I believe it was a family thing, because my mother's a young too. And she worked till she was 80 years old in the restaurant, okay? We'll get into that later, because a lot has really transpired since I even wrote this book. The truth really started coming out, what people really think, how they really felt, what they were told, what they thought they knew, what they really didn't know. I'm just telling my story. This is my story. Okay? Now, if anyone know anything about Buffalo, New York, on Genesee and Jefferson Street, when I grew up, there was like a bank right there on the corner. It was a speakeasy up on the top. It was a bar at the corner. And in the story, I'll get more detail about it. But I'm just setting up the visual for you, okay? Because I'm quite sure some of you can relate as far as your neighborhood. Some was countryside, some was city side, and some was, in my case, it was East Side Buffalo. How about that? If you can relate to this, just comment down below, and let's get a dialogue going, okay? So it was based on the original ideal of my Uncle James Young's buffalo chicken wings that was never patented, and another competitor duplicated his ideal. They were on their way to the Black American dream. I could see the plan because the next year I would be starting school full time. So this is before I even started kindergarten. Even though I was only 3 years old, I can remember all our neighbors and the Guilford Street Block Club. Guilford Street parents looked out for each other, and their families on Guilford Street had meetings for neighborhood watch-outs often. See, during those days, I grew up around a community. We had a block club. From a child's eye, I could see everyone was alert and active, like you couldn't go off the porch after dark. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, the leading families were the Brands, Floyd, Zenators, Smacks, Towns, Cookers, Barons, Pockets, Farrells, Medrikes, and Mr. Sampson, in parentheses, okay? They lived there as long as I can remember, except the Town family moved on Guilford Street in the early 1970s, after the other house burned down. Mrs. Town was a single parent with 18 children. Her husband was a minister. He died before they moved on Guilford Street. Mrs. Town always had the prettiest house on Guilford. It was a 3-family house fenced in with beautiful rose bushes and flowers. Mrs. Town won a feature in the Better Home and Gardens magazine. She decorated her home inside and out. I remember seeing her walk to the Goodwill almost every day, returning home with bags of knickknacks to furnish her beautiful home. Mrs. Town home definitely glorified God and set the standards of what Guilford Street homes were to look like. I witnessed Miss Town mow her lawn, water her grass, trim her bushes, paint her house, and feed all her children with a portion, and somehow always found another portion to offer me in the mornings when I came to her house, pick up her daughters, Star and Martha, to walk to school with me. Miss Town died in the midst of me writing this book. I thank God I had the opportunity to speak with her 2 days before she passed. See how this closure works? You know, I'm healed though. I mean, you know, I'm still human. I got feelings, you know. She was a beautiful woman, beautiful and strong. Now the Floyds lived 2 doors away from us at a 2-family house. I remember playing in the backyard with Kathy and Jack Floyd. They also had a younger brother named Kirby. He was very chunky and dark. We all went to the same school. Their parents were very strict. Their mother was a nurse, and their father owned a mechanic shop 3 doors on the other side from our house. Their grandparents lived downstairs from them. Mr. Floyd, their grandfather, was an older, bald-headed man with medium brown skin and was always moving his car from one side of the street to another. He always wore long overalls and swept the side, walking the sidewalk, keeping the streets clean, looking up and down the block, checking out what was going on. See, we don't do that anymore. We peek out the window and don't even call for help when they see stuff going. They just pull the blinds down. See the difference? This is how I was raised. Anyway, continuing. If the children ever got out of hand, he would tell us to stop and go home, then told our parents what we'd done. So we had neighborhood patrol. The Zillanders lived next door to the Floyds in a 2-family house. They had 3 children, Dan, Patty, and Jane. Jane, their oldest daughter, lived in the back apartment of the house. Jane had 2 children, Carrie and George. Carrie was close in age, and my parents were very close with her grandparents. They treated me just like their own child. Carrie and I told people we were related because here her grandparents had the same last name my older sister and brother father had. Now, like I said, I changed the names. But I just found it so ironic that, you know, her grandparents had the same last name as my sister and brother grandmother had. That's why, you know, you have to stay connected. You got to stay connected. Because, I mean, we even had an experience where my sister's sister ended up marrying our cousin. We'll get back into that later on in the book. Because I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm just laying the foundation right now. I'm just giving you an idea of the neighbors and the neighborhood and the people in the neighborhood and the main characters, you know, that was in our neighborhood. Now, Carrie was very snobby, but we played together because we were very close in age. And like I said, my parents were very close to her and grandparents, and they did treat me like I was their own child. Carrie and I told people that we were related because her grandparents had the same last name my older sister and brother's father had. The Smack family lived across the street from us. They owned 5 properties that were double homes. They were a very large family, 5 girls and 1 boy. Out of all the neighbors, the Smack family was the closest to our family. They were like our big sisters who protected my sister Tanya and me, or should I say I. It was so many of them. They dominated the entire block. And you know what? They still do. And we've been here since 1966. And this is 2022, okay? The Metrites were very bougie. They stayed to themselves, but I played with their children too. Daffy Pockets lived at the end of the block. We played together whenever our grandmother allowed her to play outside. Daffy had a single mother who worked a lot of hours, so her grandmother kept her most of the time. The Farrell family, who was related to the Smacks, lived across the street next door to them. Johnny Farrell was one of my father's best friend. They were drinking buddies. Sitting on the front porch, they would drink their vodka, talking about everything and everybody. The Farrells had 3 children, Yvette, Danny, and Kent. Notice the families were very supportive to their own family members. Today, this is hard to find. Night times, everyone sat outside on their own porch with their family or visit each other with our parents' permission. Sometimes we all played kickball, hide-go-seek, or touch football. We were one big family. We fell out with each other, but didn't stay angry very long. We loved and cared for one another. We didn't allow outsiders from our neighborhood to bring trouble. When one fought, we all fought. It's hard to find neighborhoods like that. Okay? It's hard to find neighbors like that. Neighbors to look at you dead in your eye and won't even say hello, won't beep the horn. But let something happen to their children. Let something happen to their car. Let somebody break in their house. Who's the first person they get an attitude with? Their neighbor. Because they feel like you should be your brother's keeper. But are you your brother's keeper? I don't want to get involved. I mind my own business. But 9 out of 10, when people do that, it's because they're doing wrong and they don't want to draw no attention to them. And that's the truth. Where I live now, I live on a corner. And I know I am a gatekeeper. Because, see, I grew up with the Guilford Street Black Club. I learned as a little girl. I watched my parents and my neighbors and my neighbors' parents be gatekeepers. But you can't do it by yourself. You can't be two-faced. You have to be honest and genuinely concerned, because if not, you're going to miss it. Now, that was the 2nd chapter of the neighborhood, because I'm laying down the foundation. I'm giving you the visual. Can you see it? If you can see it, comment down below and say, I can see it. I can see it. Hit that like button if you're getting any value out of it. And if you know someone who haven't got closure, who has been traumatized from childhood, share. There's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing. You can't control people's emotions, but you can be a participant of helping their healing process by sharing other information that they can be, they can relate to. Because you may not be able to relate. You may just have a perfect life, 2 parents, went to college, everything's paid for, you got a car, you got a house, you got a husband, you perfect. So you might not need this. But if you know someone who does, share. My name is Cassandra Brand, aka MsAlexis, and I am on a serious journey. So we can talk about how it really began, so we can get purpose, we can get closure, to enter to our divine purpose. And it's not a graduation, it is a continuation. And no one's trying to keep you in a mindset of the past, but a mindset to let you know you have a future. You have a bright future. Look at me. I am so blessed. I can tickle myself. Listen, thank you for joining me. Oh, tomorrow we're going to do the starting school from kindergarten. Okay, we're going to do the starting school. See, these are some short chapters. Okay, but then I have one with intervention. So tomorrow we're going to do the one with starting school. Now, in New York, we start school at age 4 for kindergarten. In the South, some kids don't start kindergarten till like 5 and 6. I'm like, wow, okay. But, okay. I enjoyed having you listening in and just taking an interest into what I have to share. And I'm quite sure during this journey, you are going to find yourself in this book. So until then, have a very blessed and productive day. Ciao.